A very warm, hearty welcome to everyone. It is the Cappuccino Club's social TV channel. I'm Brigitte Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa, and it's day 10 of the lockdown here. And we're doing a community check-in as we have been doing since the lockdown started. Welcome to the show, and welcome to my co-host, Viola. How are you today?
I'm well, Brigitte, very, very well. It's been a nice, quiet Saturday. Just lots of family time. And now every other day has become like Sunday, so it's getting a bit crazy. I'm thinking it's middle of the day of of April. I mean, I'm so confused about what day it is, what the date is. Everything's just merging for me at the moment. But had a very good day, very good day. Lots of family time. And now every other day has become like Sunday, so it's getting. Well, Maxine, allow me to please welcome you to the show. Thanks so
Thank
much for
you.
joining us. I know that
Thanks, Viola.
we've welcomed everybody from Cape Town, and we want to welcome our guests on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. But I know, Maxine, you're up in Johannesburg, aren't you?
Yes, coming to you from Johannesburg. That's right.
Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me
welcome.
on the show, Viola. It's lovely to be with you guys and to be part of this conversation and community.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining us. Maxine, what's the weather been like up in Joburg? It's been a nice cold day for us.
Sure. So we are so lucky to have our first day of sunshine in about maybe 4 days. We've had like torrential rain, which doesn't bode well for lockdown and rain. But maybe it kept people from roaming unnecessarily on the streets. So today's the first day of sunshine, and yeah, it's been really, really pouring down with rain for about 3 or 4 days nonstop here.
Okay. So Cape Town's had a really cold day today. I must be honest, my preference is cold days for this lockdown because, just doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing, and then in the
chocolate
afternoon,
and soup and
yeah, all the stuff that's really not helping the middle area over here.
I know, I feel that
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah. So, welcome on board, and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of our show today.
Thanks for having me.
And we've had such great check-ins with everybody, and I know that just asking the sort of questions we are asking has already just created so much conversation. Of course, inspired change. Maxine, just tell us what it is that you do, sort of as your day job.
So I have a background in therapy. I'm a social worker, but I have been working in a facilitation space in learning and development. I also supervise students at University of Wits, postgrad students. I'm also doing some research there, postdoctoral research. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay. And
but mainly I am with the African Leadership Group, my kind of primary function in learning and development.
Okay. And has the lockdown changed things radically for you in terms of the way you work and what just like your sort of methodology and your day-to-day, like execution of your job?
Yeah, so I mean, we typically meet as a team once a week. We go out and have a shared office space in Sandton, which we've now been doing online. And aside from that sort of once a week sort of meeting, typically we actually do work in our own office spaces. So it's very much flexible work hours. So it hasn't affected it too much. But as we were saying earlier or before the show, it's just having everyone else in the house. I'm not so used to sharing my space. And that's been a bit different. But we've actually decided as an organization to take a pause for a week and just re-look at where we're going and, what COVID-19 has meant for us as an organization. So we actually had an online strategic with 80 people from around sort of 10, 12 different countries this last week. So that's been a little bit different. Typically, people would fly up to Kenya or fly into space to have those kind of workshops. And it's just made us realize how you can do so much online. You don't have to have the expense of, and now the danger of flying. There's a lot more creative ways to do it. So, yeah.
I think you've mentioned a good point there. I like what your organization have done was to hit the pause button, because a lot of people
Mm.
sort of hit the road running, and I think a lot of people are feeling like a bunch of headless chickens without any
Mm.
direction,
Mm.
and kind of like, just trying to feel their way. But being able to pause and take a breath, and then regroup and strategize about
Yeah.
how you move
Yeah.
forward, because this is not just a new normal for a week or two. This is going to
Mm-hmm.
be we're in this for the long haul. Things are going to change the way we do it moving forward, and I think we've
Yeah.
learned a heck of a lot about how we can actually do business online and still feel
Mm-hmm.
connected even though we are apart. We don't
Yeah.
need expensive travel arrangements and hotel bookings to make
Mm-hmm.
a quick 30 minute or a 1 hour meeting.
Absolutely. I think it's just opened up necessity, the mother of invention, which is what this, has caused us to do. But yes, I think taking the pause and being able to say, what does this mean? And kind of almost saying, let's try to reimagine what business is going to look like, what people will need, how we need to operate differently, and being ready for that, saying, what kind of tools do we now need to have in place which we previously maybe didn't have. It was quite hard because I think when you're so stuck sort of in the space of, working through the here and the now, it's quite hard to sort of project yourself into, you know, um, May 2021 or a kind of future state. But it was very useful. It really was quite a good exercise. And also for us, just also thinking about for ourselves, what does this mean in terms of my own life and what I want to do and where I will be and some of the things I need to get on track. So yeah, as these meetings always go, a real kind of wake up call meeting, but a good one.
Maxine, what are some of the tools that you are using to work with?
So the online tools that we use as an organization, primarily Zoom and GoToMeetings, also uh, just the general G Suite. But I love using Slack. It's a team sort of function, where you can direct message people,
Mm,
small, form small groups, and have discussion. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. And we
yeah.
also recently started using Koan, which is a performance management tool. It's a great reflection tool. It allows you to do online reflections, look at how other people have started, like reflecting and doing different things. So those two have been quite useful for me. On Slack, I love the fact that you can actually give yourself reminders. I've been very bad about drinking water. So I've set myself a reminder to say, drink water at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, just kind of keep you in check. So I've been using it as a kind of personal structure to give me some personal structure as well.
I've
I
I've
like
heard about
those.
I've heard about that. Go ahead.
Most of the people we've spoken to thus far, I think the number one tool has come across as being Zoom. Um, but the other tools that you mentioned, GoToMeeting and Slack, for example, are incredibly useful tools. If anyone hasn't heard,
Mm-hmm.
about them, go and check it out. It
Yeah.
really is great collaborative working tools.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
They've been great.
Um,
Another one that we use. Sorry, go ahead, Viola.
Maxine, I was going to, you please tell us about some more of the tools that you're using, but I was also just going to ask you, what is the company's policy around privacy and security on all these external tools that you guys are using?
Mm. Yeah, no, very good question. So the other one I was going to mention just before I get to that is it's called Padlet. And what's really nice is you can actually write online notes. So if you're facilitating, you can share different pads with people, which I thought was incredible. It's such a cool, I've just figured that one out. But in terms of online security, because we all kind of through email are linked to the company G Suite, a lot of the Slack, for example, and the meetings, the Google Hangouts, works on that. We also use Google Sheets quite a bit. But I think, what one thing we probably overlook is just our Wi-Fi and the use of our own computers, and what that might mean for hacking and
Yeah.
all sorts of, I don't know that we actually have thought through security as fully as we need to, data security. And I think being a primarily African-based country where people work in fairly remote areas, it poses, further issues with regards to how we can actually make sure we have good data security in place. I think it's an area of development for us as an organization, but it's definitely something that we are looking at all the time. But for now, we all kind of linked through our G Suite, and be able to communicate with each other there. Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
would be a great conversation to have, Viola, is to have someone um, on the show that deals with
Yes.
compliance and security, because it's
Yes.
I don't think a lot of
Yeah.
companies had time to look at this, to
Yeah.
deal with this.
Yes.
It was like
Yeah.
you had a few 2-3 days to kind of knuckle down, and it may
Mm-hmm.
not have been enough time for people to deal with those security issues and challenges of networks, and working on
Mm-hmm.
personal computers. I don't, it happened so fast, there wasn't time for
Yeah.
all of this.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
But as we said, I think it was yesterday's show or the show before, we were saying that we are anticipating that after the lockdown's over, and even while this lockdown's going on, that HR is frantically going to go and see, revisit contractual agreements between employees. And
Absolutely.
employees are starting to consider different expenses. So, for example, the expense of my broadband, the expense, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing my own device to work, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
paying 1,000 rand for Microsoft, for the Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
software package,
Mm-hmm.
should I still be covering all of that, or should the company be
Yeah.
covering all of that? Those
Really
are the
valid.
kinds of questions we're going to start having to have. And then, of course, the
Yeah.
companies are going to expect you to now buy sort of super expensive security tools for your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Who pays for that? So I think
Yeah.
that there's going to be some really good discussions, and I think they're going to be really interesting changes to companies in terms of their policy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sort of had that standard social media policy, and you can't go onto your
Mm-hmm.
phone during work time, and you can't download movies during your work time.
Mm-hmm.
All those really, superficial, silly considerations.
Yeah.
I honestly think that IT and HR are going to have to get together as two departments of most of these companies and sit down and say, how do we start adapting our policies,
Yes. Yes.
procedures, contractual agreements, etc., to accommodate this new normal and the lessons that we're learning.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of work for data scientists to do around security. I think they're going to be in short supply. They really are. But I think that's going to be, one of the scarce skills that a lot of organizations are going to be looking for, or are looking for already, to get compliance up to scratch, and as well as all that we need in terms of data security. But yes, I think a lot is changing, and we need to be able to be ready for what that means for our individual businesses, in our personal lives, and have the kind of questions that we have, which is why these conversations are just so important, because it prepares us for, what's to come.
And also companies that are now looking to hire new staff to accommodate the new normal. We've now
Mm-hmm.
seen how much we can do online. So in this period, companies who are looking for staff can
Mm-hmm.
find those people online, because we can do so much with live video. Nothing prevents you from doing interviews during this time online.
Yes.
I think people have
Yeah.
neglected to appreciate that live video is the way to go for interviews,
Mm.
Yes.
because
Yes. Absolutely.
it's you making eye contact with the person.
Mm, mm,
The
mm.
person's in a comfortable space. I mean, I think for students as well, sometimes we don't appreciate how tough it is for students to interview, and sometimes they don't get the job because
Yeah.
they don't come across so well. They're in a new
Mm-hmm.
environment they don't understand. But you interview them in their home environment, they're a little bit more comfortable and they're more inclined to be
Mm.
themselves. Even
Yes.
people that you're
Yes.
interviewing, they'll be more inclined to be themselves when they're in
Yes.
an
Yes.
environment where they feel safe.
No, that's a really good point. So we are starting operations in Abidjan, and I've been doing interviews for francophone facilitators. And a great tool that we've been using is called Greenhouse. It's an app that gives you a real flow of where the person CV sits. You've got a scorecard that you can kind of map out on there, and then it's fed into a central system, to talent acquisition team. But I think that the development of those kind of HR tools, to facilitate more online work is what we're going to be seeing more of, because it will allow us to be able to actually have individuals working across borders. And I think this is the one thing that's a big change for us, is that borders now become quite almost transparent in the way in which we work. I mean, I think it's very apparent in terms of travel. We certainly know where we can't go, but from accessing talent. And also, I think what's important for South Africans or unemployed youth, which is a big area of study and of work that I do, is for them to be able to say opportunities that might be available in the telecom space outside of South Africa, because of the video and multimedia kind of channels being available. That might be an opportunity to explore. So I think as entrepreneurs, we want to be able to say, let's not waste a crisis. Let's think about what this means for us, and what we can actually do to be able to change the kind of interface for some of our the people in our country that need to be able to be seeing a difference. Yeah.
That is such
I just
a
want to
good point.
acknowledge
Go ahead,
I just want to
Brigitte.
acknowledge our viewers on LinkedIn. Yolanda says, great tools, and thank you for sharing, Maxine. And then also Hilton Martin says, there are so many great VPN software packages out there to help with security.
Oh, good.
So
Thanks.
so the tools are available. We just need to know about them, and that's why it's great to talk, because then we get to hear about what is available.
Yes.
So if you know any tools that can be used safely by enterprises, then please do share them in the comments. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the thing that you said about unemployed youth. One of the things that I had personally not thought about, which you sort of stimulated my thinking around, that is the idea of, if you don't need work permits to work for a company over the board, a company overseas or over the borders in Africa, because you're actually doing the work online, innovative, enterprising, unemployed youth could actually now start offering their services to these companies without having all the drama of sort of work permits, etc., etc. And if I think about it, if you really start extending that conversation, it's also an opportunity now for just for you to be able to look at new markets now that everybody's online. The disadvantage of not having cash flow for airline tickets and accommodation and all of those things, it's almost as if the sort of lockdown has made all of us a little more equal in terms of our access to markets. And so that's really something that I think entrepreneurs should be thinking about, is how do I now start taking what I offer and start introducing it at least to new markets, with, now that the playing fields are more, sort of more or less more level for me. And I think that's actually quite clever. So, unemployment, there might be an oversupply of that skill in South Africa, but it might not be. It might be a scarce skill in another part of Africa, where you can actually offer skills to that country. I think it's something brilliant for our unemployed youth to start thinking about during lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. That's a really great point. I was speaking to a colleague, intern actually, and she was saying that she's doing ghostwriting in New York. So she lives in Kenya, but she's doing, she's an English major, writing for a magazine in the States as a ghostwriter. And I just thought, for those people who want to be able to get opportunities and think out of the box, there are those opportunities. But the business process outsourcing space, I think, is really going to be able to benefit. And not that we want to speak in terms of benefits given the situation we're facing, but leverage of some of what is going on right now. I think that's going to be quite a boom because, we need to be able to hear voice and a way of communicating via the phone, and in terms of the call center space, I think is really going to see an increase. My prediction, don't quote me on that, but I'm wondering if that's just something that might grow in future as well,
Yeah.
and open
I
up
mean,
opportunities for youth.
yeah, one of the areas Brigitte was talking about is personal assistance. Something that I had not thought about, online personal assistance. So instead of having to have somebody sitting outside the office in front of you, you could actually be the online assistant to quite a few executives at the same time. If
Yes,
you were
yes.
organized enough and if you were able to use the
Mm-hmm.
technology that's available effectively, that's
Yeah.
another thing that, so I think if we put our minds together and
Mm-hmm.
really think about it, that there's major
Absolutely.
opportunities to leverage from a very
Mm-hmm.
bad situation that's created a crisis. But like we
Mm-hmm.
say, you don't waste a good crisis. You try
Mm-hmm.
and figure out how do you actually navigate it.
Yes, no, for sure.
I
I,
think,
I agree with that.
another thing that's also, I think, going to explode moving forward is telemedicine, because that's
Mm.
another thing that's taking off during this crisis, is people are realizing you don't need to go and expose yourself to the virus sitting in a room full of other patients. And
Yes.
and people often complain about doctors being unable to stick to appointments.
Mm-hmm.
But telemedicine is going to put a whole new spin on it. We
I
can do
agree.
consultations online. I just want to go back and just acknowledge some comments on LinkedIn again. Yolanda says
Mm-hmm.
this means we need to nurture and develop youth to be able to fill the gaps in the ICT sector.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think we're definitely going to be rethinking the way that we have been working in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and reimagine how we can do things differently and possibly
Yeah.
even do it better, do it more efficiently, because that's the one thing for me, is we can add a level of efficiency by
Mm-hmm.
doing things online.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Maxine, just coming back to your work itself,
Mm-hmm.
we've spoken to about two or three people doing training and facilitation, and a lot of them are
Mm-hmm.
saying they're sort of revisiting their course content and curriculums
Yeah.
and all of that kind of stuff during this time. Are you
Mm-hmm.
delivering any online courses, or are you also sort of just doing the admin course brush up kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I think we were actually meant to do an in-person this week for 2 days, and given lockdown, we've had to pause and just start to convert a lot of that content to online. But it's not a straight conversion if you want it to
Mm,
be quite effective and efficient. And I think using the right types of tools and making sure that you set up quite well is part of the process that we're going through now with the product team. But definitely saying that we want to be more agile, we want to be able to offer the option of having more online, and for us, we're seeing that can help us to reach bigger markets. At this point, we're only running in sort of Johannesburg, but we'll be able to then invite participants from Cape Town. In fact, we have people from Cape Town fly in to Johannesburg for this. That could actually just save the way in which we run our businesses, and the way in which we uh, deliver some of the content. So yeah, definitely being able to take more of it online. But I have a sense that there's some things that need to be in person. So there's some coaching, there's some face-to-face kind of eyeball to eyeball
yeah,
context that's needed.
yeah,
So especially I think in the kind of counseling space, which is also where I have an interest in, where I do some work. Some of it can be done online, but in other sessions, you actually do need to you know be in the space that someone else is in, for it to be effective. So I have a sense that there'll be a majority online, possibly 80%, but we want to be able to still have some in-person contact where we're safe and where possible.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
also seen some amazing innovation, well, for a long time, certainly because I've been in the live streaming space for about 3.5 years. I've seen people tutor even piano lessons,
Hmm.
guitar lessons. I've seen people doing all kinds of mentoring and training
Mm,
online,
mm.
one-on-one online. So it can be done if we just
Yeah.
apply our minds to it. And people also doing counseling
Mm,
online,
mm. Yeah.
one-on-one counseling
Coaching.
online. It can be
Mm,
done, coaching and counseling. So I mean,
mm,
we're
mm.
using a technology now. We can speak to many people, but you can use the same kind of technology to simply do a one-on-one in a closed environment. Um,
Absolutely.
Mm.
so it
Yeah,
is
I agree.
possible.
Yeah, for sure. I've done some online counseling, online coaching. In fact, with the South African Association for Social Workers in Private Practice, they're running a huge, big workshop this week to be able to train more people in what it means to be effective online.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing some of that this week. But yeah, I think the benefits of being in your own space, people are quite relaxed, and it's
Yes.
easier than the commute. So it saves you loads of time in the sessions that I've conducted online, and you're able to actually just get to some spaces quicker in some instances. Because
Mm.
people feel like they can, it's a little bit easier for them to just speak freely. In some cases, so yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of benefit to having that space online, the counseling
Well,
space at least.
well, I just heard something crazy, and someone was talking about the fact that they do their meditation class online
Really?
and the yoga class
Okay.
online, which I thought was really, really weird. But apparently, it
I
worked.
wonder how
You
that
know,
works.
it
Okay,
worked really well,
cool.
and I think it's just really about mindset. But I must be honest with you, I do agree with you that I think there are still going to be things, elements of it at least, that are going to require sort
Mm,
of
mm.
eyeball to eyeball
For
discussion,
sure.
and
We're social beings.
correct, correct, just to
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to just to have that engagement, that one-on-one
Mm,
personal engagement. I even think, as much as we're talking about sort of most businesses and most teams going online, I do think that there are going to be some teams where it's not going to be possible.
no,
There are
for
going to be
sure.
some there are going to be some teams, especially sort of new, and by immature I mean teams that are not established
Developing.
yet,
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
developed yet, where the level of trust is still, still
Mhm.
fluctuating. I think with
Yes.
teams like that, or where your follower readiness isn't really at a delegation space, where
Yes.
your follower readiness is still at a sort of day-to-day instruction
Yeah,
space.
yeah. People
Um,
need more
I,
mentoring. They need more kind of one-on-one training, and that type of thing would need them to be, closer in a space. I agree.
yeah. So it's going to be interesting for me. When we had the water crisis,
Hmm.
everybody, you walk into people's homes and it was standard that you would see a bucket in their shower, and everybody was collecting water
Sure.
for to flush the toilet, to put, water in the
Mm-hmm.
garden and so on. And I think everybody sort of thought that that behavior would continue once the water crisis was over. And yet I'm
Yeah,
finding
yeah.
that people have just gone back to old habits.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
I
gone
mean,
back
and
to
that's
old
a
habits.
really good way to save. I mean, that was like really some great tips that you want to be able to say as a family. Let's adopt these habits.
Correct.
But yeah, I think, and we're seeing in China as well that a lot of kind of businesses have gone back into operation. People are out on the streets again, and shops are operating, and where people can work online, there is that. But for the most part, things are
Correct.
kind of reaching this next normal, this new normal, as people have come to call it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
do think that we are going to be, getting back into that space soon, and that's going to be, changing the way in which we look at it. But the habits that we learn from here are things that can help us, and we need to be able to say, what from this do I want to take into my new normal? What works, what doesn't work? And those conversations, I think, for developed teams or for well-established teams will be,
Yeah.
a lot more valuable.
Yeah, I think look. I think it's exactly like we said. It's going to really be up to the leadership of the team whether this
Hmm.
behavior continues, and whether we sort of build on what has now been created. That the crisis is
Hmm.
created, do we build on it, or do we go back to old behavior where everybody's sitting in traffic
Yeah,
again, and sort of shuttling back to offices?
yeah, yeah.
But only time's really going to tell how this is all going to pan out. But at least
Yeah, for
now, I
sure.
think, yeah, I do believe that people have got at least got another option to add to the conversation. You know,
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
option of working at home, even if it's for 1 or 2 days, if people feel more
Yeah,
comfortable going back to previous behavior, that's probably something
yeah,
that's going to happen.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Thank you so much
So
for
do you,
spending
Maxine,
time with us.
thank you so much.
it's a
Maxine,
real
how
pleasure.
can
Thank you
people
very
how
much
can
for
people
having me.
connect with you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Maxine Dawkin. I'll be available there to chat. But yeah, that's been a fabulous time chatting to you and getting to know everyone. And I look forward to further conversations. We're about halfway through now, eh? So just 11 more conversations, and then we'll be rethinking how the space looks. But thank you very much. It's been fabulous to be with both of you. Thanks for the opportunity and for the time.
Okay, just thank you so much. Just a very quick question. What are you looking forward to most when the lockdown's over?
Oh, wow. I cannot wait to go for a jog. You can't believe how I was not jogging before, but now that I can't, I want to I want to jog
I
and take
know.
my dog out to the park and just
Okay.
play ball with the dog in the park. So yeah, I'm just looking for some open spaces, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, everything of the best for the rest of the lockdown, and thanks for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, ladies. You take care now.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And I think we want to close off again with a reminder that the sharing of fake news or disinformation or misinformation about a criminal offense in South Africa. So please hit the pause button before you share anything and make sure that you share only the real facts. Thanks for watching, everyone. From me, Brigitte Limband in Cape Town in South Africa. It's goodbye for now. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Maxine, thanks for staying.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to